Friendship destroyed over wedding drama. Was I wrong for standing up to homophobia? My friend Kelly is getting married next Saturday. She asked myself and 3 other friends to be her bridesmaid. Her sister is MOH. One of our friend Ellis is in a same-sex relationship. Kelly seems to have no issues with it since she asked Ellis to be her bridesmaid and invited Ellis' partner as a guest to the wedding. Well, last night Kelly texted Ellis and told her she's no longer a bridesmaid. She and her partner aren't welcome to the wedding. Ellis was confused and pressed for a reason. Turns out Kelly's FILs are furious, fucking gay sluts, are attending their wedding. It's a sacred place and dirty hoes have no business being there. Ellis calls me earlier this morning while my BF and I were sleeping. She was really upset and crying. I tried to comfort her the best I could, and we are meeting up for dinner later. So I called Kelly and asked WTF is going on. She tells me it's no big deal. She's only missing a plate of food and she will make it up to her. She also has the nerve to tell me to ask Ellis to lend her the bridesmaid dress because she found someone to replace her, so it wouldn't look uneven at the wedding. It's such a hassle and last minute. If everyone would just be normal, then this wouldn't happen. I pretty much lost it right there. I told her she's the shittiest piece of shit I have ever met. She's just all into looks, and I told her I am not going to the wedding either and hung up on her. My BF heard this all go down and texted the groom that he's not going to be the best man either. My BF also told his friends about what happened, and they are also not going to the wedding. The MOH calls me up and says I'm such a bitch that I ruined the wedding for Kelly, and I'm just starting shit up. I'm honestly glad I bowed out, but I'm left wondering if I should have just kept to myself then confront Kelly after the wedding. Our tight group thinks I did nothing wrong, but others said I shouldn't dictate who gets to go their wedding. Relevant comments. Zombie Wings 2015. Info gotta ask, what does the groom think of this? You said your BF informed him that he wasn't going to be in the bridal party either. Does the groom agree with this mess? OP. The groom had no idea. His parents went straight to Kelly without telling him. He's angry at his parents and Kelly. He's a really good guy and wants to apologize to Ellis tonight if she's willing to see him. Tamato Amacup. Clearly NTA. You sound like a very good friend and a great ally to the community. Nevertheless, you are wrong on one point. Not only her ILs are homophobes, but Kelly is also one. OP. I agree I am wrong. She's never shown herself to be a homophobe or made any homophobic remarks for the 13 years I've known her. She also asked Ellis to be a bridesmaid before the rest of us. I guess the stress really got to her, and she's showing her true colors. Update. My BF is a huge Redditor and said I must make an update. He's a little jealous my post got me some shiny hardware. I told Ellis about this post, and both of us have read every single reply. Thank you for all the kind words, encouragement, stories, and suggestions on how I could have handled it better. So yesterday was a huge shit show. The groom, Eric, came to the restaurant where we had dinner and apologized to Ellis. He also wanted to make a few things clear. He had no idea Kelly would go behind his back and tell Ellis and Anita, her partner, they aren't welcome to the wedding. And most importantly, his parents didn't say any of those things. His father made an offhand comment which translates to, "What's a good girl like Ellis doing with another woman?" His mother said, "Children these days thinks different. You antique cow shouldn't talk so much." Kelly took it upon herself to interpret that her future in-laws, FILs, sorry about the confusion y'all, meant they hated homosexuals. FILs weren't furious and never said Ellis and Anita aren't welcome to the wedding. Kelly and a few of us speak that dialect fluently. There's no way she didn't understand exactly what Eric's parents said. The wedding is called off as Eric wants to step back and think if Kelly is the right match for him. Anita tells us Kelly has been very passive-aggressive towards her and Ellis for the past few weeks. Anita said she thought it was the stress of the wedding, so Kelly was acting up. I think it's also because Anita and Ellis are getting married at the end of the year. We live in a country where gay marriage is non-existent. In fact, if you are LGBTQ, you as a person don't exist. Ellis and Anita have talked about going to Canada or Taiwan to get their marriage license and holding a mini banquet back in our country. Someone suggested we all go to Taiwan for a mini vacation and they can have a small wedding there. We have been talking non-stop about this for the past month. TBH, we were talking about the vacation rather than the wedding since it's the first time most of us have traveled there. Kelly is probably jealous that Ellis upstaged her. Either way, Ellis and I feel incredibly guilty for how it all went down. We've known Kelly for over a decade, and we don't want to see her go down in flames. It's a pity that a friendship had to end this way over a single day. Second story. My boyfriend of 10 months is best friends with his ex. She refuses to meet me, and it's getting weird. I started dating my boyfriend, Jeff, 10 months ago. This relationship has been amazing so far, and I definitely see a future with him. There's just one problem. He has a weird relationship with his ex that's starting to make me really uncomfortable and suspicious. When we started dating, he often talked about his best friend, Jenna, who he also owns a business with. He made it pretty clear that she was an important person to him. I knew they had spent vacations together, and he mentioned hanging out with her parents a few times, too. A few weeks after I met him, I creeped through all his pictures on Facebook, because who doesn't do that with someone they just started dating, and saw a bunch of very couple-wide pictures of him and Jenna. I also found her Instagram and looked through it, and it's filled with pictures of Jeff. A bunch of them had the hashtag relationship goals and other similar things. So in this way, I figured out that they had dated. I kept waiting for him to tell me that himself, but he never did. About 2 months after we started dating, I straight up asked him if he had dated her, and he admitted it. He said that they had met in school and had similar ideals and ambitions. They dated for 9 months and broke up a year and a half ago. I asked him why they'd broken up, and he said their relationship was awful and they worked much better as friends. They started their business after they broke up and things have, apparently, been going well between them since then. I started to get kind of suspicious about her, though, when time passed and I still hadn't met her. I met his friends and family pretty soon after we started dating, but I didn't meet Jenna. I went to numerous social events that I'd expect her to be at, but she was never there. There were a number of occasions when our paths almost crossed, and I really thought I was going to meet her, but I never did. For example, I went to their office a few times to meet Jeff after work, and Jenna was already gone. Or sometimes I'd come to meet him, and he'd come outside to meet me so I wouldn't have to go inside. Things started to get really weird about 3 months ago. Jeff and Jenna were having an open house night one evening. Jeff came over to my place after work, and we had a few hours to kill before it was time to go. So we went out for dinner and then walked to the office. I was kind of expecting that I'd come in and help them set up, but when we were a block away, he started asking me if I had lots of work to do and saying there was a really nice coffee shop nearby. He actually walked me to the coffee shop and sat me down, then left to go get ready with Jenna. He told me to come to the office in an hour and a half. About half an hour before I left for the office, I texted Jeff and said I hoped everything was going well and asked if there was anything I could do. He replied and said, "Something's come up for Jenna and she can't be here tonight." I was getting really suspicious at this point. I went to the office half an hour later, and sure enough, Jenna wasn't there. People kept asking about her all night, and Jeff told them she'd had a family emergency. When we walked back to the car later that night, he told me what happened. While he and Jenna were getting ready, she had had a panic attack and said she was scared to meet me. She said she wouldn't be able to handle it and either had to leave, or he had to tell me not to come. He told her to leave, so she did. Since then, a couple more weird things have happened, and I still haven't met Jenna. Once, when I was hanging out with Jeff, we went to the office so he could grab something. When we were almost there, he looked at his phone and said, "Jenna's still there. Let's just go for a walk." So we walked around the block for half an hour and then came back when she was gone. After that happened, I told Jeff I felt really uncomfortable with the situation. I could respect that they were friends who had dated, but the way she was acting about me was very suspicious. He apologized and said he had actually been really mad at her, but wasn't sure what to do. He also told me a couple other weird stories about things she'd done. He went to a party a few weeks ago. I didn't go, and his phone had died that night. When he got home and charged his phone, it was full of texts from Jenna saying she was outside in her car and asking if I was there or not. She actually never even ended up going to the party, simply because SHE didn't know if I was there or not. Now here's the kicker. Jeff and Jenna are currently on a 2-week-long camping trip. They've been planning this trip since before I met him, but considering the way she's behaved, I feel very uncomfortable about him being on this trip. I just looked at her Instagram, and she's posted 5 new pictures of him. As awesome as Jeff is, I'm really fed up with this, and I'm seriously considering breaking things off when he gets back. Am I being unreasonable? TLDR, my boyfriend is best friends/business partners with his ex. She has done a number of weird things to avoid meeting me, and I'm so sick of it that I'm considering breaking up with him. Relevant comments. Glitterland. You're not being unreasonable at all, and I can understand why you feel so upset about the whole situation. If I were you, I'd be asking Jeff a few questions. Does he know the root issue of why she doesn't want to meet you? Is she like this with anyone else? Explain to him that the situation is upsetting you, and that you aren't comfortable with him going on a 2-week vacation with her. She is, after all, his ex-girlfriend, and the whole thing strikes me as a little strange. Maybe you could talk about meeting Jenna with Jeff present in a quieter, mutual place like a cafe or a restaurant. If Jeff was my boyfriend, I'd be looking for answers. Best of luck to you, and please post an update. OP. It's kind of reassuring to hear that other people don't think I'm being unreasonable. I have actually asked him if he knows why she's being like this, and he says he's asked her the same thing and hasn't gotten a clear answer. He said he's asked her if she still has feelings for him, and she said no. They're actually already on their trip, so there's not much I can do about it at this point. I think I'll try probing him a bit more when he gets back, and see if he might know a bit more than he's telling me about her behavior. Jiltro, you're not only not being unreasonable, but you have put up with way more than most other people would have. I would have noped out of there when I found her Instagram and realized he didn't tell you that he had dated her. Not to mention all the crazy over-the-top nonsense she's pulled since. And he is going on a 2-week-long trip with this girl? Oh God, so much nope. OOP. Well, I'm glad that at least I'm not the only one who thinks it's weird. I kind of feel like I probably would have called it off already if he wasn't so great in other ways. This is seriously the best relationship I've ever had. But the whole Jenna situation is really over the top. Why wasn't OOP on the camping trip, or why wasn't it canceled? I have to work and I was never invited. As far as why it wasn't canceled, good question. Deleted. I just broke up with my ex last week because of similar behavior. Her ex was super clingy and openly in love with her, and she wanted to stay friends with him. Found out they're going on a vacation together, and I straight up wasn't invited. Confronted her about it, and she refused to accept that it was totally fucked up behavior. So I dumped her. Confront your boyfriend about this when he gets back. Don't tell him he can't be friends with her. Just tell him how it makes you feel. And if he gets defensive or tries to gaslight you, dump his ass. Don't let your so treat you like shit because they're overly protective of an ex. This girl is very clearly still obsessed with your boyfriend, and her intentions cannot be platonic. Maybe your boyfriend is just a dumb idiot and needs to open his eyes. Or maybe you're just second fiddle in his life. OOP. Wow, that sounds kind of creepily similar to my situation. I'm sorry to hear about your ex. Sounds like you're better off without her. I have decided to confront him when he gets back. I really need to tell him how all of this makes me feel. I've told him it makes me uncomfortable before, but I guess I haven't said exactly how uncomfortable it makes me. And I'm starting to feel like this camping trip is just unacceptable, partially thanks to all the people that have commented here. And I shouldn't have to put up with stuff like this. Update 15 months later. I wrote my previous post over a year ago, and a lot has happened since then. I wanted to give everyone an update, since the advice on this sub was really helpful at the time. For a few months after I wrote my OP, nothing much happened. Jeff and I continued dating, and he continued being friends/partners with Jenna. I never met her, but everything else in our relationship seemed to be going so well that I decided I'd try to deal with it. Things got really hard, however, when I had to take a work contract 12 hours away from home for 3 months. I hardly saw Jeff the whole time, and I looked at Jenna's Instagram almost every day to see if she'd posted more photos of them together. More often than not, she had. Since I wasn't physically present, I felt like Jenna was his real girlfriend. I felt completely worthless and constantly stressed out, knowing my boyfriend was spending all his time with another woman who I already had suspicions about. While I was away for work, I decided to break up with Jeff. I broke up with as soon as I came back, and I made it very clear that his relationship with Jenna was intolerable for me. I told him he was going to have a hard time dating anyone who wasn't her as long as she was still in his life. He kept saying he didn't understand why it was such a problem. He told me he couldn't control her behavior, but he promised me he hadn't cheated on me. I explained to him that by allowing their friendship to continue, he was condoning her behavior. I told him I didn't really even care if he'd physically cheated or not, since he'd already shown disrespect for me and our relationship. I didn't speak to him for a few months, and I went on with my life. I took another contract out of town and even considered moving permanently to another city. One night, though, Jeff called me and apologized. He said he had been thinking about our relationship a lot and realized he had been in the wrong. He said his relationship with Jenna was beginning to feel toxic to him, and he'd made arrangements to dissolve their business partnership. After that, I decided to meet up with him, not necessarily give him another chance, and discuss the situation further. When we met up, he promised to stop talking to Jenna and unfollowed her on all social media. As of now, he has not spoken to her in 6 months, and we've gotten back together. We actually ran into her at a concert a few weeks ago, and they didn't even say hi to each other. I feel much more respected and confident in my relationship now. TLDR, I broke up with my boyfriend. He ended his friendship/partnership with his ex, and we have gotten back together.